A Jalen Brunson contract extension could be incoming, and there's a very good chance that the New York Knicks superstar takes a massive pay cut, and we have to talk about it. So what's up, guys? Welcome back to Knicks Digest. It's Chris here, and we're going to jump right into the video as we always do because Fred Katz recently was talking about Jalen Brunson as he is officially extension eligible, baby. It is time the New York Knicks and Jalen Brunson can break down contract extension talks and potentially hammer out a deal this summer. However, there's a chance Brunson won't want to sign it because signing a contract extension this year instead of next season would mean that he would be taking a massive, historic pay cut, but it seems like he might just be willing to do that. Let's look at it. Now, as Fred Katz said, there's a world where instead of gunning for a max contract, Brunson signs the extension for cheaper than his market value, and if he were to take that deal, cementing that it would promise him 9 figures less than one he could receive as a free agent a year from now, it would do wonders for the New York Knicks. Now, on top of that, Fred Katz kind of breaks it down and said, that's a difference of $113 million guaranteed. It's a $39.1 million average when it comes to the annual payout for the contract extension versus $53.8 million that he could get if he signs an extension next year. And he said, Katz, that it's possible the difference in money is just too large and Brunson is going to wait till next summer to earn his $250 million. However, he's considering both scenarios. Now, there's a few reasons why Jalen Brunson would want to do this. There is, obviously, he would get paid more if he signs that extension now, or if he signs that extension next year compared to if he signs an extension now. But there is a way for him to make the money back in shorter term than people believe, and I'm going to break that down in a minute. It also obviously would help the Knicks out so much if Brunson signed for $113 million less. The Knicks obviously are going to have a lot of guys to pay in the future. Julius Randle's on the last year of his contract. Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo will both be due for contract extensions in 2026, along with Mikal Bridges. OG Anunoby just signed a massive deal. In 2026, Mitchell Robinson is also a free agent. A lot rides on the New York Knicks succeeding in 2025, just to be careful, because we know that 4 of their key players, including 2 of their 3 elite defenders in Mikal Bridges and Mitchell Robinson, will hit free agency in 2026 or will have the ability to. Maybe they'll sign an extension. It's very interesting to see what's going to happen. And so let's just keep on going through this because there's so much to talk about with this stuff. And Fred Katz has mentioned Brunson has no interest in playing anywhere else, and he's referred to the Knicks as family, which in some cases is quite the literal term. When Brunson signed with the Knicks, he agreed to a deal with Leon Rose when obviously Brunson's agent, Sam Rose, is Leon's son. Who did the New York Knicks have on the assistant coaching staff? Rick Brunson, his dad. Who else was part of that kind of Brunson family? Tom Thibodeau, who's been around JB forever. He's known Brunson since Brunson was a kid. Jalen Brunson is as engraved as this Knick culture as literally anyone. He was the guy for the Knicks when they brought him in. No one saw what was going to happen with him to have this meteoric rise into superstardom, except maybe the New York Knicks, because they hired everyone close to him, and they're like, no, he's this good. He is that good. We're going to pay him. And then Brunson becomes an NBA superstar, top 10 player in the league, arguably top 5. He's an MVP candidate. He's looked at as a guy who can be the best player on a championship team, especially a team that goes as deep as this New York Knicks squad. This is Jalen Brunson's team. This is Jalen Brunson's city. This is Jalen Brunson's world that we're all living in at this point, at least when anything comes down to the New York Knicks. And there's a world where he's like, you know what? I'll take that cheaper deal. I want to keep the band together. This is my family. I know they'll get me back. Also, Brunson's money is not just coming from contracts at this point. This is just the beginning of his name blowing up as one of the premier names in basketball. He is banging down the door of being a household name. The money is going to follow him. When it comes to the different endorsements, commercials, stuff that he'll be able to do because he's charismatic and funny and has a podcast and is the best player on the New York Knicks, the team that makes the NBA the most money of any NBA franchise. Jalen Brunson is going to be all over NBA commercials and stuff like that, while the whole NBA benefits. The NBA, a place where its office is in New York, will benefit off Jalen Brunson's name getting big. So it's not just like someone, like another Nick, just a pulling out of the hat like Jericho Sims, who some NBA fans know who he is. If you're a hardcore NBA fan, you'll know who Jericho Sims is. If not, you probably won't. If you're a Knicks fan, you probably know who Sims is. Unless you're a very, very casual fan or you're just not really, you just don't care. Like, it's not your main sport or whatever, so you're not really paying that much attention. That's fine. But Jalen Brunson is not that. Everyone in New York knows who Jalen Brunson is. I mean, my grandma does, and she's 83. Like, everyone knows who Jalen Brunson is at this point. He'll be able to make the money elsewhere, which definitely is part of this. But there's a lot more to go into this. Such as, according to Steve Popper, Brunson understands the NBA's new financial world with the two aprons and where front offices fear compiling too high of a payroll, thus losing most of their resources. Yes, I struggled to say compiling right there in case you're wondering. But yeah, the first and second apron thing. Brunson understands that, and I've broken it down before in videos, but we're going to do it again because I understand that some people may have missed it, and it is complicated. So I'm going to do this kind of quickly because this video is going a little long. But essentially, if you're over the first apron, something that the Knicks are right around right now, but they did get under it through the McHale trade and moving Shake Milton and Mamadi Diakite in the process, being a first apron team means you cannot take in more salaries in a trade than sending out. For instance, when the Knicks traded Bojan Bogdanovic for McHale made $23 million to Bogdanovic's $19 million. If the Knicks were over the first apron, that trade's not allowed. The Knicks can just go kick rocks, that means. There's just nothing to do about it. It just sucks to be you, as I said in another video. Their mid-level exception, something that's at $12.9 million this year, you only get to use $5.2 million of that because you're over the first apron. You cannot sign buyout players who have their contract as the mid-level exception, the max mid-level exception, or higher, meaning anything $12.9 million or above. If a player got bought out from a contract more expensive than that, you cannot sign that player. So say a guy gets bought out for $17 million, you can't sign him if you're over the first apron. The Knicks will certainly be over the first apron if they have to pay Jalen Brunson that second contract. They might be over the second apron, which we're about to talk about. You also can't use trade exceptions generated from the previous season. For instance, if the Knicks were in the first apron last year and then going into this offseason that happened, guess what? They can't use that R.J. Barrett or Malachi Flynn trade exception they got when they traded both those players. So, again, it would just suck if that's you in that case, I guess. But also, the Knicks could go over the second apron with having to pay everyone down the line. It'll happen that they'd hit that second apron, which is basically $188.9 million over every single contract or more, where essentially it's all those apron rules that we just talked about, plus some more, such as you can't aggregate players in trades. You can't send out cash. So whenever you see one of those trades, it's like, oh, well, this team got like this player for and cash considerations. No, you can't give cash considerations if you are a second apron team. You're just not allowed to. You also can't sign and trade free agents in exchange for players. So if you're going to sign and trade a free agent, it has to be for a draft pick or cash considerations. You can take in cash, you just can't send it out. Now, on top of that, there's also no spending exceptions besides bird rights and minimum signing. So those veteran minimum deals, you can still sign those. And you can sign bird rights, so someone who you've had on your team or who's on a contract that's longer than 3 years or 3 years. So whether you sign that player to a few different shorter-term deals and it's gone over 3 years, or you sign the player to a 3-year contract or longer, or you traded for a player that was on a contract that was 3 years or longer, you have their bird rights. If you're wondering, it is named after Larry Bird. And essentially, you can go over the salary cap to re-sign that player to whatever the max money is they can have. You can give anything up to that point still, even if you're going over the salary cap. That is what the aprons mean. So, in case you guys ever wanted to know, there you go, right there. But essentially, Jalen Brunson knows about this. And he does not want he does not want the Knicks to be in this where they're struggling to win. Why is Jalen Brunson willing to take the lesser max contract, the the massive $113 million pay cut? Because he's a winner. He wants to win. He wants the Knicks to be good enough so he can win a championship. That's what matters to him. Winning matters to the man. He doesn't just want to take his money and be on a team that's not going to succeed. He does not want to do that. Meaning that if the Knicks want to succeed, they're probably going to need to save some money while doing so. Brunson might be willing to do so. That is a franchise player. That's more than a franchise player. That is as good of a franchise player as you can get when you have an MVP candidate willing to take $113 million less. You know what I would do? I would take the $113 million. Now, I think most of us would. I think most NBA players would. Why wouldn't you? Because Jalen Brunson is a winner. That is why. That is the number one reason why. Now, that's not there right now. But here we go. In 2025, Brunson would be able to sign a 30% max contract, but in 2028, it would go to 35% because he'll be over 10 years. Well, he'll be 10 years in the NBA, but once it's 10 years or older or over, you can get way more money. And with the way the salary cap is going, that would be a projected 5 years, $417.8 million contract. Just an absurd amount of money. So Brunson would get the money back. And if he signs the extension now, he'll be closer to being able to sign that contract right there, which is the big thing about it. And it would start with $72 million per year. And then it would rise up every year toward in the final year when Brunson's around 35 years old, he would be getting $95.1 million. That is over $1 million per game played for a 35-year-old Jalen Brunson. That is why you sign that contract now, so you can get closer to this. That is the big key behind Brunson doing this. Now, Brunson's a superstar. We don't know. Maybe he'll still be great by then. We don't know if he'll be great in 7 years. I sure hope so. I sure hope he's got a ring or two on that hand because the Knicks are a title contender. Now, Jalen Brunson is their leader, and in order to win a title, it's going to have to be behind this guy putting up last season in his true breakout year into superstardom, put up a little under 29 points per game, getting 3.5 rebounds for someone 6'2". That's pretty great. Getting nearly 7 assists. His passing has gotten so much better. Obviously, he's not a great defender, but still almost getting a steal per game. People think Jalen Brunson's a terrible defender. He's not. He's very league average, especially for someone who's an offensive-focused point guard, shooting 48% from the field and 40% from three. Excellent on the catch and shoot in the corner. Most of his threes by a little, or not even most, the slight majority of his threes are assisted. The man is a phenomenal three-point shot creator. And he's shooting 30% of his threes behind the arc, more than really ever before, especially more this year than he was with the Knicks last year. He's moving out of that mid-range, more into that three-point range. The man's a superstar. He's everything the Knicks could have ever asked for. I mean, as Mike Breen put it one time, the Knicks fans have waited so long for a guy like this, and they got it. What if he signs that extension? Is he just like the greatest leader in Knicks history? He might be. Guys, let me know what you think down below. Is he going to do it? Is he not going to do it? Like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Have a great day, guys. Go Knicks. Yo, he might just be the GOAT. He might finish as the Knicks GOAT. I won't lie. One championship in the modern era, he's the Knicks GOAT.